Alrighty. Well, I wouldn't really want to be caught holding the phone at this time of the day, in case there's a cop out on one of these roads. Just heading out of a suburban area. So I just dropped this thing in my pocket and you can see a bit of yellow. Oh man. Well, seems your sidekick has indeed gone. I'm stuck with another guy at the moment. He's not the best. He's African guy. He's sometimes his priorities he's not quite spot on. And although he's not too bad, but you know, there's times where, like at work, we got certain things that, you know, all this stuff's hired. So what'll happen is you have to have you know, a certain type of everything in stock. So we've got heaps of different stuff, and you want to have at least, you know, half a dozen or so of these things in stock, of every different type you've got. And there's some types of things that get used far more than others, and you probably want even more. You want like 2 dozen of those in stock, you know, and times there when it comes to cleaning and he just focuses on something that we've already got frickin' 2 dozen of that we barely ever use, and something we use a lot we got literally fucking 1 left, or sometimes none at all, and they're sitting there ready to be cleaned. Nah, he's not going to clean them. Fuck that. He feels like cleaning his stuff that he wants to clean, so he'll clean the ones he wants to clean, you know. And not sure that he's so up on priorities, and even on, like, you know, the order of peck. He wonders why the supervisor gets to do nothing. Well, that's because he's the fucking supervisor, dude. Like, what do you expect, you know? Of course the supervisor's just gonna fucking bumble around. He doesn't have to do anything, you know? And he gets shitty about it a little bit. But he also got this idea that you should do something that's hard work just for the point of doing hard work, so you can say you done hard work. Well, I say fuck that. We've got so much cleaning gear. We've got forklifts, like, you know, stuff that will clean the equipment we've got. You know, we've got like angle grinders with wire brushes, sort of like a circular wire brush mounted inside a 9-inch angle grinder. We got pressure washers. We got frickin', you know, a lot of different things. One of the ones I wanted to get was a needle gun, because it's good for getting concrete spatter off things. And little secret is a lot of these constructions that we're dealing with, it's you know, a lot of infrastructure stuff, and they all love using concrete. And so there always ends up being concrete dropped on something somewhere, you know, because a lot of it is, you know, built of concrete. Most bridges are. Well, at least in this country they are anyway. I know America has steel bridges. We just concrete for a lot of stuff. For bridges, for large-scale water tanks, for water channels, all of which are some of the things that I know we're involved in quite a bit, particularly the bridges. And apparently there's going to be quite a bit of road upgrades and stuff to fix the chronically fucked up traffic. I think it's, you know, they always crap on with this most livable city in the world bullshit, but if you actually look at it, we got like the 4th or 5th worst traffic in the world. In the fucking world. You know, we're up there with Tokyo, England, New York. We're up there with all of them, you know, in terms of modern westernized countries, not fucking Egypt or something like that, you know. And even at times, some of our traffic jams, you know, to get from one side of the city to the other, they closed a particular bridge. It was literally 7-hour expected travel time, you know, because of this closed bridge at one point. So there's going to be a lot of tunnels built, I reckon, in the coming years. They've had a few on the books. A few have already been built even 15 years ago or more. And they reckon there's got to be more, and of course a lot of our equipment is, deals with that sort of shit. So we're going to be doing a lot of those jobs in future, in the coming years, not straight away, but yeah. So apparently things are going to grow quite astronomically over the next 2 or 3 years. Somehow we keep losing more and more people. Fucking hell. Anyway, back to this African guy. He really likes doing things the hard way at times, and he can be a little bit argumentative, but and there's times there where I've said things, and I know it's just fucking language difficulties. He speaks English fine, but I think it must be my accent. He just is no good picking up my really slurred Australian accent sort of thing, and you can probably understand American accents or British accents better. But he has spent a fair bit of time in New Zealand because he's actually a New Zealand citizen. So, yeah. But anyway, he's also doesn't get on with the supervisor. Now, the supervisor, if you're a white guy, is usually pretty good. If you're, with some of the Asians who we've had, at least one I know of in particular, who is only there a day a week and he's in university. He's intending to leave as well, but he was only there a day a week anyway. And particularly some of the black people, this supervisor's a real prick. You can be really blooming pretty much an arsehole to him. He's Sri Lankan, so I think he's from the upper crust of Sri Lanka. I really, he went to England as a refugee, but I really question if he's actually ever really seen much war as such, because I get the feeling that, like, he's lived in England, he's lived in Japan. I don't know if he was, rumours that he was in France at one point, or possibly went to university there, but I think that was confused with him doing university in England. But he's told me himself he's been in England, Sri Lanka, Australia and Japan. Yeah. But he seems to be a bit of a racist little bugger, basically, and long story short, a lot of these people get a bit sick of him, and they sort of actually know, the company knows, and that's part of the reason for the turnover of people. But the African guy I'm working with, he's ready to fucking knock the supervisor out. And he was telling the Italian guy told me, the Italian guy thought he was joking, he was serious. One of these days he's going to ask me to do something fucking, that I don't want to do, or talk down to me, and that's going to be it. I'm going to fucking thump him. And I think it was almost like that a few days ago with something else that I come to realise was also a language difficulty. The expectations that he thought were being asked of him to lift something that's like fucking 120 kilos, whereas realistically, no, he wasn't asking him that. He was asking him to work on this thing, but if you want to get it on a table, which we've got these big super heavy duty tables with like 1/8 of an inch steel plate on the top, and they go, you can drop a couple of ton on these tables. There's actually, 2 of them, and there's another 2 that are like a heavy duty, but they got like 3/4 inch ply on the top. And a lot of this stuff, like, you just bring up the forklift beside it and slide it off onto the table. So it's a bit of a miscommunication, just language difficulty on that one. And I think he was fairly close off getting thumped. So I think in due course, one way or the other, the African guy's going to thump him anyway, and then I'll be without him as well. Fucking hell. There's been times where they've sort of brought people in and I get asked directly by supervisors, are these guys any good? Because if they're not, we can just fucking sack them, right now for you. And there's been other times where we've had people who you know, are all right, and they ask, is this guy any good? Because if not, we'll sack him, and I can sack him right now for you. And then you get someone who's a real pain in the fucking ass, and they will never ask you. And they won't ask the guy who's been there 8 years, who also used to be a supervisor. And they won't ask, you know, the current second in charge. No, won't ask any of them. And then you'll be stuck with this fucking asshole who like argues all day long and fucking, you know, doesn't want to do this, and deliberately, you know, you tell him we need to do this now and he can fucking go and do something else, and you're sitting there going, this is bullshit. We've got orders that have got to go out and this asshole's doing what he wants to do, you know? And people like that, you know, will stay there for fucking few months, and it's like, how the fuck is this guy still here? You know? In the end, though, you know, one guy started disobeying the supervisor, and not the current one who's usually like second in charge, but the actual supervisor, and he started ignoring him at the same time that he's asking when he's going to be made permanent in the company, you know. And he was asking this like he'd been there 3 weeks, and he's asking when he's going to go permanent. I'm like, fuck, dude, these people have been here a year and a half, 2 years before they've gone permanent, you know? You get some clueless idiots. Another guy almost had a fucking punch on with someone. He'd spent the last 3 years in jail anyway, you know, and this was his first job since jail, and then almost had a punch on with someone. And quite honestly, he was the same, you know. Would not fucking do what he was told, you know, and go and do his own bloody thing, make his own list of priorities, not the list that I've been given by the supervisor, but his own list, you know. And I hope to God that cunt's in jail getting fucking 60 minutes in the Lisa Marie every fucking day, honestly. I hope he's dropping the fucking soap, because he was a prick. But he almost had a punch on with the university student, and that was the end of that. So yeah, actually it wasn't, because the dumb bastard come back to pick his stuff up, and the manager went fucking ape shit and called the cops, in fact. So and oh yeah, he also tried to have a punch on with the manager too before he left, so that really fucking helped the situation even better. And because he'd got another job with the same day hire agency, temping agency, you wouldn't believe it, our manager rang up the agency and told them what had happened. So the new job that he'd only had for for literally a day, he lost that other job as well for coming back to his old job to pick up a few of his things and nearly having a punch on with the manager. Unbelievable. Anyway, I get a bit of a feeling the company's fairly hard, like fairly high expectations on managers. Just, you know, seeing the last guy go and all that, there's a real, you know, they expect a lot of managers and supervisors. And the first supervisor, yard supervisor we had, when I was there, he had sort of, he was only there for a few weeks. He'd been there for a year, and they put him permanent probably a week or two before I got there, and he only lasted a few more weeks and he actually quit. And that, you know, some people a bit like that. You put them permanent finally, and that's when they decide they're going to go and get another job within a few weeks of being permanent. You know, it's, I don't know if it's they feel like they're trapped or something. I've seen a number of people do stuff like that. You know, sign off on being permanent and then leave 3 weeks later. And when he went on to another job, once again as a supervisor, his pay, his hourly rate literally doubled. So they're not the best on paying this company. But you may be interested to know that it's a European company based in the EU, one of the EU nations, I'll put it like that. And long and short of it is, it's actually still owned by the founding family. So it's not even listed on the stock exchange or anything like that. The shareholders are literally the sons and daughters, and believe it or not, the founder's wife is still going and involved in a lot of it. You know, and they're based out of 60 countries. 60. Including Kazakhstan. No shit. Kazakhstan. Yeah, like sandwiched in between fucking Afghanistan and Russia. They're sort of like Mongolian, but with a big, solid, round Russian face. Yeah. We even got an office there. Or a, you know, depot, branch, whatever you want to call it. And United Arab Emirates and fucking everywhere, you know. Massive setup in the United States. You know, in parts of Asia, we've had stuff come through from India on a regular enough basis, Italy, Germany, get a lot of stuff from Russia too. Quite a bit of stuff from Russia. What's the other ones? Malaysia. I think sometimes China, but not often China. Might have been once or twice China, but not much. A lot of this stuff we get is actually supplies for rejuvenating the existing gear, which is one of my specialties, rejuvenating shit. And although we got no welders and sort of like, you know, they want people who are certified, you know, tested, you know, sat a test and all that for welding. And so we just send that all up to the main branch in Sydney. But yeah, they got a lot of very good equipment and expensive equipment. They're far better than us, you know. But anyway, I'm just wondering when we get the next person if I can drop a few Elvis quotes on them, you know. Look at me! Get ready, leprechaun! I don't think I'll be able to get away with work your button mouth without being, you know, taken into the frickin' supervisor's office over that one. I'll love to manage to get a few Elvis quotes in there. I don't think that's really possible. But anyway, we'll see how it all goes. It's one of these things, you know, the work's pouring in. And, well, at least I'm in a job and I've definitely got flaming money in my pocket again. It's ridiculous in a way, you know, you're doing one thing, to be taken off that to do another thing, to be taken off that to unload a truck, to then be given something else to do and finish that, then go back to what you were doing, which might have been an order for the next day or something, and then finally, 10 minutes, 15 minutes before knock-off time, you get back to the thing that you were doing for the first 3 hours of the day, you know, and it's like, fucking hell. Yeah, she gets busy like that. But anyway, that's a little waffle on the whole work situation.